what's up, how y'all doing and such. So as you can see by the title, Final Destination Bloodlines has finally released, and I have seen it not once, but twice in theaters by now in IMAX HD. And as somebody who used to make this my entire personality when I was in high school, I have several thoughts and I want to share them with you guys. Now this is pretty much a review, thoughts, opinions, kind of going through the plot of the movie and the details about it. Now I have a little anecdote. If you don't care, go ahead and skip to this timestamp so you can watch the actual review. But I just have to get this off my chest because I have never I have gotten death threats. Death threats! I'm gonna make this real quick. Basically what happened was, I was scrolling on Twitter, yes Twitter, minding my own business. I check my notifications and I see this tweet. It's the adding for me. What did you add me for? So as you can see right here, Final Destination and crew threatened my life, but I'm still here. I'm still here. Mind you, this is the actual Final Destination account, like the actual account. So what did I do, you might be asking, to make Final Destination threaten my life? So I saw one of their ads, and I decided to like it. That's it. That's literally what happened. No less than 2 minutes after I liked their ad, I got threatened. I have never had a movie, series, or ad ever threaten my life like this before. This is fantastic. Girly pop, they wanted my head. Oh my god, it's already hot in here. Anyways, I just had to share that. I'm gonna go print it out and put it on my wall for a keepsake. Oh my god, that's my favorite thing ever. Anyways, let's go and get to the review. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. I'm Hayes, still alive, and welcome back to my channel. Now, of course, since I'm going to review the movie, I'm going to get into spoiler territory, but I just want to give my general thoughts about this movie, kind of like non-spoiler review real quick. Fantastic! I genuinely think this might be the best movie in the franchise. I don't know, it's between this and 3. Final Destination 3 holds a very special place in my heart. I think it has the best deaths in the series. This movie hits a really emotional core that, I mean, I guess you could expect from a title like Bloodlines and the idea of death following a family throughout this movie. And because of that, it allows for a lot more emotional core to resonate throughout this movie. I guess, of course, the deaths and, you know, the anxiety. Is my anxiety. And all that's fun, and it's still there, but what I really like about this movie is that, one, they understand exactly what it is that makes these movies work, and they've kept majority of that basic kind of formula intact, while also kind of expanding on previous ideas that were shown within previous movies, while also doing something a little bit different in several aspects of this movie. Now, we saw the impact of the deaths for the characters in the first few movies, but because a lot of the deaths in those movies involved strangers or people that they just went to high school with, we don't really get as much emotional core within some of those other movies as we did with this one. This opening premonition is definitely my favorite. It's gorgeous. It's actually gorgeous. I know a bunch of us were wary when it came to the idea of a premonition involving a restaurant, but because it's a sky view restaurant, it led to a lot of interesting ways that premonition could play out. I have one main critique about this movie that, like, I'll get into in just a minute. And another thing that I really like about this movie, it already knows that you know what's gonna happen. It's like, this is the 6th movie in this series. Y'all know, it's very much y'all know exactly why we're here. Let's just go ahead and get to the point. It cuts to the chase, it cuts to the point, and I actually really like that because it doesn't need to set up so much, and it allows for the rest of the plot to take over. I think the acting was really good in this movie, especially from the main characters. And my closing thoughts about the non-spoiler review part of this is that I just really like how it really adhered to the idea of the premise of these movies while also changing things around in an interesting and unique way. Okay, so now I'm about to delve into the plot and we're gonna get spoilers ahead. So this movie revolves around a character named Stephanie and her family, but the story starts out with a character named Iris. This story starts out in 1969, showing the character Iris Campbell and her boyfriend Paul, as he surprises her with a date for the grand opening of this restaurant called Skyview. And off the bat, I want to say that I really think that these creators know exactly what they're doing when it comes to creating a Final Destination movie, but I think this is my favorite opening kind of like scenes before the disaster happens. Just like every other Final Destination movie, it shows a lot of things that are feel off, or songs on radios that kind of describe what's about to happen. But I will say the acting is really phenomenal for characters that really don't show up that much. I will get into that. The thing with a lot of Final Destination movies is that it makes everyday situations uncomfortable, and I think they had a lot of good shots that really show how uncomfortable that this situation can be. The elevator scene in the opening, fantastic. I love how you could feel like it not only gives an idea of what's going to happen in the future, but it also just makes it so uncomfortable. The sound design, amazing. I just really like the idea of this taking place in the 60s / early 70s because of the styling that this movie takes on the beginning. It's that we've never really seen a Final Destination movie take place during this time period, so it's really interesting to see. Like I said, I think the character dynamics are really fun. Iris with her fear of heights really adds to the anxiety of the situation, and we see a lot of scenes in this opening disaster that like really kind of shows and exemplifies just how far up these people are. I really can't emphasize enough just how gorgeous this movie looks, especially the beginning opening disaster. Like all of this, I just really think this is a really fun opening disaster. Partially because we really feel for these characters. The man is really trying his best to make this night as perfect as possible, because once they get to the top balcony of the sky view, he ends up proposing to her. And as we learned a few scenes before, part of the reason why she's so uncomfortable is because she's pregnant. And I just really love these moments that they have between these characters. Wish we could have got more of it, but I'll get to it soon. I just really like the interactions between these two characters because it really emphasizes an emotional core to this movie that's followed throughout this movie. I know we get a lot of assholes when it comes to this movie series, but to see that there wasn't really much of that in this movie. Now, we get to the disaster. Okay, I just want to start this shit by saying, fuck this little boy. Fuck this little boy. All my homies hate this little boy.
Wait, where'd you get that piano?
And also, if you hand somebody a penny, that is you wishing death upon them. Yes, no, it's true. We see in the beginning of this movie, Iris notices that this little boy is pulling pennies from the fountain to then throw over the edge of the sky view. One of those pennies ends up going back into the vents lodged within the fan blades. As we see that this construction was done 5 months earlier ahead of schedule, and knowing that time period, wasn't this before OSHA? Yeah, so it's not structurally sound. We got bolts popping out because of the wind. Like, it's terrible. That penny ends up popping out one of the gas tanks and gas leaks into the Skyview restaurant. And one of them little dangly bits from one of the chandeliers lands onto the glass floor and kind of cracks it because, of course, it would be a glass floor. And now, as a bunch of characters are dancing to this performance, of course, the glass breaks. A whole bunch of people fall to their deaths, right? Including Miss Gurley's fiance, which the visual of him hanging on by the glass and it's digging into his skin, oh, y'all knew what y'all were doing. See, y'all did your homework. A+. Eventually he go, and I'm not gonna lie, I need y'all to understand something. I was obsessed with this movie franchise as a kid, and when I tell you, I was cackling. I was cackling throughout this entire movie. As everybody's trying to run away, one lady catches on fire. One of these ladies catches on fire, runs into the gas leak, whole building explodes. Whole building explodes. So now with half the building on fire, everybody trying to run away, until like the floor of like one half of the restaurant starts like sloping. I don't think I have a fear of heights, but the idea of a slanted floor and y'all are pressed against the glass looking down at everything goes quiet until that penny lands on the piano. Then that piano swung its body to the side. Now there go the rest of the people. That whole part of the building collapses. No, one of the singers that was on stage has a son. That son was hiding in a box during this whole event. Iris pretty much sees that these are the last two people still alive at this point. She runs, grabs the child and tries to flee. The rest of the part of that building collapses. She's hanging on, okay? She's hanging on, not with her hand. The ring on her finger that she just got engaged with, the ring is like caught between two little things and she's literally hanging by the ring, okay? With the little boy in their other hand, they're just dangling. You actively see the ring like literally scrape skin off of her finger until she falls and gets impaled through her throat with something in the premonition. The creator said that the person having the premonition does something different that no other protagonist has done. And I was kind of like wondering what that would be. In every other movie, the protagonist tries to stop the disaster from happening, but ends up only saving a few people along the way, with the disaster pretty much unfolding as it would have regardless. But Iris actually managed to stop the whole entire collapse from happening in the first place, stealing the penny from the child and getting the people off the dance floor. She saved, I think they said like over 100 people. And after that, the unfortunate thing is that storyline's pretty much done at that point, which brings me to my main critique about this movie. I'm really glad with what we got. However, I kind of forgot that we weren't following Iris throughout this movie. So when we got back to modern day, I was just like, oh, well, I kind of want to see what happens with her storyline. Like I said, I am glad that we got what we got because it introduced something new to the formula, versus if we would have followed Iris' story, it pretty much would have just been the same. It would have been Founders Nation, you know, plain and simple all over again. It was such an interesting storyline, and the fact that the characters managed to captivate me within like their 5 to 10 minutes of screen time throughout this entire movie, I'm just like, I really actually want more from these characters. I want more from this storyline. But it's not Iris' story. We're not following her. And like I said, I'm glad for that, but also I kind of also wish we got to see more of her story. I will say that wanting more of something isn't the worst critique to have, which is why I say this is my favorite Founders Nation movie, but especially after my second time of seeing, I'm just like, I really wanted to see more of it, especially because, like I said, we've never seen a Founders Nation movie take place during that time. But anyways, as the premonition ends, we get back to our main actual protagonist, Stephanie, in the modern day. We see she has recurring nightmares about this Skyview accident, and has been seeing the same dream pretty much every night for an entire 2 months. At this point, it's kind of ruining her life. She's on academic probation because she can't sleep or focus on anything. She keeps getting night terrors. Eventually, she goes home, and we meet her father and her little brother. And at this point, Stephanie is on a mission to figure out why she keeps having these recurring nightmares, especially because the character Iris is the same name of her grandmother. She ends up going with her brother Charlie to go visit their cousin's house. And here we meet the three stooges, Eric, Julia, and Bobby. And as we can see, there's a little bit of tension. There's a little bit of tension brewing within that family. She goes over to her aunt and uncle and essentially asks about Iris. All family gets uncomfortable. She's essentially explaining to them, you know, the idea of having the recurring visions of that premonition at Skyview, and how her uncle explains to her about how after the Skyview incident and her saving those people's lives, Iris essentially ruined her children's lives by becoming so overprotective of them, seeing signs of death everywhere they went, until eventually Iris loses custody of her children, and she essentially becomes reclusive and lives in this fortified fortress in the middle of the woods. And although nobody wants to talk about it, after some pressure, her aunt does tell her where to find a box of photos and letters that Iris tried to send to her children. She sees that indeed this Iris lady is the exact same lady that she's been seeing within her visions. So Stephanie sets out and finds where Iris lives. And another reason why I really wish we got more of Iris's character is that both the actresses' acting is really good, both her young version and the old version. Like, Iris just seems like a really cool character that I wish we would have got to see more of. We found out that Iris has been living in this fortress for decades now, warding off death because she essentially made this book that not only details the signs that she's seen over the decades and is able to sense when death is about to come, but within this book she also has the obituaries and the deaths of all the people that were there that night at the Skyview. And after a conversation, Stephanie decides, this is a little too much for me, you know, maybe I shouldn't have come here. She tries to storm out. Now, Iris only has a few months to live because she got cancer. And upon realizing her granddaughter has been having recurring visions of her premonition, but also doesn't believe her, she decides to show her for herself. Because, you know, seeing is believing. One of them little farmhouse, like, you know, the little steel chicken thing that shows, like, the cardinal directions, that falls off the top of the house, hits a fire extinguisher that fell down because of Stephanie opening and closing the door, and blasts that metal thing clean through Iris's face. I mean, yeah, sure, traumatized her, but I mean, it got the message across, so I mean. Now, during the funeral for Iris, Stephanie's mom, who at this point has abandoned her family since Stephanie was 10, comes back just to pay her respects and everything and, I guess, see her children again. Stephanie doesn't want anything to do with her mother after she abandoned her at this point, and Stephanie and her brother getting to a little tit for tat about the mom abandoning both of them, and Stephanie, once she went off to college, she stopped answering calls and eventually just kind of dropped contact with the rest of her family, so her brother is upset about that as well. So after the funeral, back home, Stephanie is going through Iris's book, and we start getting the signs. We start getting the signs that Death is about to make his move. So everybody in the family besides Stephanie is in the backyard, having a good little cookout, about to put something on a grill. And throughout this entire scene, we keep getting like red herrings or like things that are said. Like there's just a lot of moving parts within this, and this is why I say these people know what they're doing. Like, yes, I love a good fake out. Like what was shown in all the trailers of that glass cup breaking into the ice and the ice getting scooped up into people's cups, and you're just like, which cup has the glass in it? So we just get a lot of uncomfortable shots of like people about to drink something, and just like it's just a lot of moving parts. Somebody's on a trampoline with a rake underneath it. It's like one of my favorite things about this movie franchise is that so much of what if you see something on screen being like looked at, like you gotta look at it a little bit, that's gonna come into play at some point, but it's all about trying to piece it together and trying to figure out what's gonna happen. Because like, look at these clues, and you tell me what you think is about to happen. If you thought the Jenga pieces were gonna fall over onto the cup, the glass was gonna spill out onto the grass, and then the dad was gonna step onto the glass, he was gonna fall back, and then the rake was gonna fall onto the lawnmower, and then lawnmower his head off. Y'all are gonna think I'm sinister. Y'all are gonna think I'm demented. This is Final Destination. We all know why we're here. You're a sick freak just like me. Yeah, I'm talking to you. So later after that, Stephanie decides to talk to her family about what it is that was in Iris's book. She had all these family trees and obituaries like on the wall. And here's where she touches on the main kind of like idea theme about this movie. Because Iris actually stopped the disaster from happening entirely, Death had so many people to go through and it took so long that a lot of these people ended up having families, including Iris. A bunch of families and people that should have never existed. And because of that, Death went down each of their bloodlines depending on the age of the people. And with Iris being the last one to die in her premonition, after her death, it's now going down her bloodline, starting with her son, Stephanie's uncle. And now I think this is a really interesting concept for a Final Destination movie. Like I said, I really wish we had gotten more of the opening disaster and Iris as a character going through her story, but I am glad that they did go in this direction because I think this is a story element that's not only interesting, but I think it's very well executed. And again, really plays into the emotional core that this movie has. But of course, this is Final Destination, so nobody believes her at first and they all scatter. And I really just want to say I really like the dynamic between Stephanie and her mom. And it makes sense how receptive she is to this information given that she was Iris's daughter. And after trying to give her some advice, Stephanie at this point is just like, I thank you, but I don't need a mom now at this point. I don't know, there's just a lot of really good moments that like really kind of hit me within the theater. So later that night, we see Eric at the tattoo shop that he works at. And now if you've seen the initial trailer for this movie, you would have known that it pretty much kind of like gives away what happens. It pretty much just plays the scene, you know, as it happens. He gives himself a tattoo in honor of his dad who just died. And giving you scenes and set pieces that really kind of exemplify why Final Destination is such a fun movie. With the fan swinging next to the chains and the flammable liquid, it just keeps you guessing about what's about to happen. So long story short, Chain swings off the fan into his nose piercing, snags onto it, lifting him up as it twirls around the ceiling fan. He knocks over the flammable liquid along with the light that breaks into the liquid and then catches on fire. He shatters the glass that he was standing on, which there's a lot of glass shattering in this movie. I think that's really fun because several movies within this series has done that kind of like having things throughout the movie that kind of reference the accident that happened. He manages to unhook, but then falls into the fire and the place catches on fire. Charlie and especially Stephanie are freaking out at this point until they run into Eric the next morning. As they're walking, trying to explain to him that he's probably gonna die next, Stephanie is looking out for puzzle pieces and is very just wary, you know, essentially just trying to look out for Eric, and he's having none of it. He's just like, if you don't cut the bullshit, like, he's not taking any of this seriously. Cousin Julia comes out the house to go for a jog, and I just want to play this scene. I just want you to look at it. Oh my god, I love these movies. She's in the garbage truck. The garbage compactor comes on. They're trying to flag down the truck. Truck dude has his headphones on, scrolling through Tinder. Sir. Dude not paying attention at all. Stephanie gets on top of the truck trying to save her. Trying to reassure her because she couldn't possibly be next because old dude is supposed to be next. So long story short, she gets crushed by the garbage compactor. I don't have a whole lot of complaints, and I've seen people talk about the use of CGI in this movie is fun. I think most of the CGI is good. It's just noticeable that there is a lot of it. However, this one scene, it did look a little cruddy. It's just a little bit, just a little cruddy. So after this incident, like, everyone's just depressed, like, They're all in the living room trying to figure out what the hell's happening. She's like, I don't understand. Eric was supposed to be next, and because of that, because of my miscalculation, old girl is dead. And the most... Oh! This scene got a hefty chuckle from me. Girl, I saw that and I was just like, ghetto WLM. I was like, girl, are we on TLC? Are we on VH1? Are we on MTV? Anyways, with that piece of information, we now see why Eric was spared, because he's not directly linked to the bloodline of Iris. Now, this is worth noting. It's very interesting. As somebody who watched all the movies, it's so interesting seeing characters that get focused in these movies end up like not dying in the end because they're not of the bloodline of Iris. Technically, Death's not going after them. So it's just so interesting seeing characters that actually survive in these movies. So we see that Bobby is next on Death's list. In Iris's book, they see there's a character named JB, noting JB is someone who escaped death. The rest of the crew travel to go to this hospital in order to track him down. And with that, we finally get the long-awaited return of William Bloodworth. Unfortunately, featuring in his last role as William Bloodworth, my respects to him, we get a little lore when it comes to William Bloodworth's story, which we never really get. Throughout the scenes in which we see the premonition unfolding, we see a little boy that Iris ends up trying to save. That little boy ends up becoming William Bloodworth. Alright? William Bloodworth and Iris end up exchanging ideas about what is death and, you know, kind of like what is the cycle, which I wish we would have got more of how exactly he knows so much about death and like kind of his connection to that, but it seems like it really isn't as much a connection as people may have thought. I'm not sure if this fully implies that like he's like had a pact with death, or I mean, because he did say that he was on his way out in this movie too. Just like with Iris, they were both essentially dying at that point. He tells the main characters the two methods that he's found reliable for cheating death. One, killing somebody and taking their remaining years, as we saw with Final Destination 5. And two, dying and then getting resuscitated, as we've seen in Final Destination 2. We also get a couple of references to Kimberly in Final Destination 2, especially with like the log trucks in this. And there's a couple of scenes in this movie that accentuate kind of like the purpose or like the overall idea of what this movie is trying to say, and just enjoying the last few remaining days that you have left. Like, you never know when death is coming. The importance of family and living your life. But he essentially warns them about the dangers of fucking with death, as we're gonna see. So as Stephanie's mom, brother, and her all have a little heartwarming moment, Dumb and Dumber manage to escape. They've concocted a plan where Eric essentially tries to convince Bobby that he needs to die and then get resuscitated in order to break the chain. Bobby, as we've seen, is allergic to peanuts, as we've seen at several points in this movie. They reference it. Bobby wants him a little snack. He wants him a little Reese's. And after beating the vending machine like he stole some, they sit down in a room with an MRI machine. Okay, I want to say the cinematography in this movie is really good, especially the scene of like it kind of like slowly panning over to this very dark corner where like the MRI machine lights up slowly. Unfortunately, going in and out of that room several times, a clipboard on the wall falls onto the MRI machine, activating it, and as soon as that magnet really gets to work, it presses onto the machine, activating it to be able to go higher and higher and higher. They're having this whole moment. Now, this is the... This scene was directed by Ryan Murphy. I watched it and I said, this is so Ryan Murphy coded. That and the whole tattoo shop scene was very Ryan Murphy coded. So the MRI machine is heating up. All those piercings. Ooh. All of those piercings are starting to get ripped from his body. Earrings, nipple rings, nose rings, ring. And the funniest part about that is I saw that he had several piercings, and I'm just like, watch he have a cock ring. When I tell you everything getting ripped out, oh, as somebody with several piercings, that was gross. That was real nasty. There's a wheelchair behind him. Okay, the wheelchair pushes him into the MRI machine. His stomach is in the machine and he's getting folded in half, okay? Body getting sucked into the machine. We see his rib cage coming out. We see the organs start to explode out of his body, and he just gets slowly compacted with the wheelchair pressing against him. Old dude who's going into anaphylactic shock at this point reaches out for his EpiPen, and at this point, since the MRI machine is at critical level, all the metal on the outside of the room is starting to get sucked onto the door. So a nurse comes through, probably standing right in front of the MRI machine, the vending machine that they were fucking with earlier. One of the coils had gotten loose. Shoo! Stabs him in the head. Not only that, but because the MRI machine, it was still spinning in his brain. When I tell you, peeled the top back. Peeled the top back. His scalp was like this. And now, obviously, I can't show y'all a bunch of this, but like, I'm trying to give y'all a good visual so I can understand. You're welcome. Anyways, oh, this is getting long. Let me go ahead and get to the point. Anyways, the main character, Stephanie, her brother, and her mom, they see Bobby die. They come to the conclusion that they need to go back to the fortress that Iris was able to survive in for several decades at that point. The mom decides to sacrifice her own life in order to stay in that forever because she doesn't want her kids to have to deal with that for the rest of their lives, and as long as she survives, death won't be able to come for them. And again, I think this movie is really good at that emotional vulnerability within this movie, because that scene where she says that, and then Charlie is like, Mom, we just got you back. I'm just like, I'm not gonna lie, my heart broke. I'm just like, oh my, this is tragic. Yeah, there's just a lot of really good lines and just delivery in this movie because the characters are all family. There's just a lot of family drama going on in this Final Destination movie. Like, this is a horror movie, but it's actually Days of Our Lives. Alright, so climax. The thing I didn't mention before with Stephanie's mom is the reason why she felt like she needed to leave her children wasn't because she didn't love them or want to be a mother. It's because growing up with Iris as a mother, she saw herself start to exhibit some of those same behaviors, not wanting them to go outside, being so overprotective of them to where she didn't want them to go out at all. Seeing signs of death everywhere, eventually seeing how this was affecting her children, she saw herself in those children, and she decided if she stays, she's going to continue to ruin their lives. And I think one of my favorite lines from that scene was, I don't know if I did the right thing, but I'm here for you now. Like, oh, like I told you, like soap opera. Anyways, once they get to the fortress, Stephanie realizes that she's seeing signs that death is starting to activate. She's just like, he's about to make a move, we gotta go. She rams through the gate. The sudden braking makes a pocket knife fall over and get her stuck in the seatbelt. Her mom and her brother trying to go into the cabin. There's sparks that start a fire within the home. Blows that whole bitch up. Charlie's stuck under a wall. The mama helps him, but then right afterwards get crushed by a pole. He can't even process that because his sister is currently in a van that's flipped over because of the explosion into a lake and she's drowning. At this point, Stephanie's been underwater so long she goes unconscious. Then she gets resuscitated by her brother. They see the destruction of what happened. They have to understand that the mom died trying to help them. But because Charlie saved her life, death isn't after them anymore. Okay, so last real scene. We're almost done, guys. I don't know how many months later it's been, but it's been a little bit while later. Charlie's about to go to this prom dance with his date. And as they're talking about Charlie saving Stephanie's life to the date's dad, the prom date's dad is essentially just like, you know, technically you didn't die. You didn't flatline. You only kind of went unconscious. So like, technically he didn't like bring you back from the dead, but you know, like, still good on him. Charlie and Stephanie looking at each other like, girl. Stephanie starts seeing signs again that death is here, the wind blowing, pricking her finger just like Iris did before the premonition. This coin, alright, this coin has been a recurring motif throughout this entire movie. The same coin that was going to be responsible for causing the collapse of the sky view. Iris saved it in her book. The penny fell from the book a while ago. This old lady picks it up, and then right at the end of the movie, the old lady comes back into the play, buys some cookies from some random Girl Scouts, the coin falls, bounces directly into train tracks that we saw at the very beginning of this movie, love the callback, jams right into the railroad tracks. Train derails, is coming after Charlie and Stephanie. They escape just in the nick of time until a bundle of logs comes in and crushes them. End of movie.
Wow. That was so powerful.
I'll tell you, I do think this is the best movie that we've had in the franchise. Like I said, the closest contender for me is 3, maybe 5 with that ending. But I'm glad that we were given time to, you know, process between the movies, between 5 and 6, because they've had enough time to, like, plan this out and, you know, like, kind of get a lot of good ideas. And with this being a sequel that came out years after the last sequel, I can understand being kind of nervous about what the quality was going to be. But if you love Final Destination movies, I promise you're going to like this one. It did just enough to kind of change the formula a little bit in a way that we haven't really seen any of the other movies really do it to this effect. While also keeping the core ideas, this is very much still a Final Destination movie. And I think the other movies do have an emotional core to them, but like I said, I just think this one was done the best in the franchise. So much of the focus of this movie was on the emotional connection between the characters because they were family. I think the opening premonition was the best in the series. It was the best looking one. I think it was just a really interesting idea to have a Skyview restaurant. Like I said, my main critique about this is that I just wish we had gotten more with the story of Iris, because especially with the premonition, I was just like, William Bloodworth's mother kind of dies early in the premonition. I'm just like, damn, I kind of wish we could see more of her, because you know she's gonna die early. And I'm just like, oh wait, she's not gonna come up again. Because we're not following their story. Like I said, this is a very CGI heavy movie, and I'm okay with that. I think a lot of the CGI, especially in the beginning, was really good. However, like I said, you very much can tell that one scene with the trash compactor death and then that ending bit with the characters, it did look a little, you know, but I'm okay with that. Overall strong contender in the series. I'm very much glad that we've gotten this in the form that we have it. Crossing my fingers for a part 2 where you delve into Iris' story, but that's fine. If y'all saw it, which hopefully y'all did before watching me squawk, what did you guys think about it? Especially for my fans out there of the series, how did you like it compared to the other ones? If you'd like to follow me on social media, I'll have the link up on the screen and the description box down below. Thank you so much for watching, if you indeed still are, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. Unless they try to come for me, which I'm a bad bitch, you can't kill me.
You know you make me wanna shout.